Hello, JC fam. In one of my last videos, I talked a little bit about LEXX, the mysterious, somewhat obscure, mid to late 90s sci-fi fantasy series, which was made partially in Canada. I mentioned it was made in Canada, and that's only partially true. It's a Canadian-German production. It was made, parts of it were made in Canada, and parts of it were made in Germany. And that makes sense because a lot of the actors, including star Ava Habermann, are from Germany. I've seen the four sort of TV movie episodes, sort of movies that led up to basically the standardization, I guess you could say, of the series. I only care. The first two are okay, but the two that I want to talk about that I think are really awesome. The third and fourth features Eating Pattern and Giga's Shadow. Oh, sorry, I was on my coffee break. There wouldn't have been pattern in that because I don't have something sticking out of my neck. But yeah, so Eating Pattern is a brilliant sort of episode. We're going to say episodes just out of simplicity, even though they're kind of TV movies. Eating Pattern and Giga's Shadow are both awesome. Eating Pattern is where basically the LEXX starship is running low on fuel, and they have to infiltrate this planet called Cloginac or something like that to outsource some more food for protein. But instead, what they end up doing is coming across this sort of cult, this very bizarre, zany, cannibalistic cult who lives off this, the eating fluid known as pattern. And pattern is, well, if you all remember the movie Soylent Green, it's kind of similar to Soylent, but in liquid form. I'm not going to reveal the specifics of what Pattern's made of because I don't want to spoil the plot for anyone who wants to see Pattern. But yeah, basically, Eating Pattern's a great episode. Absolutely love Brian Downey as Stanley Twiddle in that episode. He sort of gets brainwashed, basically, into sort of being second in command to this cult led by Bog, played by Roger Hauer. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. He's like the ringleader of that cult, and the main person who's concocting the pattern, who shares his inside information with Stanley. Zev is kidnapped, among other things, and must be rescued. We all must depend on Kai to be the hero in this situation. Again, not going to reveal too much details in case any of you want to watch it, but there's a really funny ending scene, and I also kind of like Doreen Jacobi as Winx, the mysterious girl who sort of plays at hand at one point first with Stanley and then later with Kai. Eating Pattern's a great episode. I've actually watched that episode at least twice. The first time I watched it was actually way back 5 years ago, on April 6, 2019. And then I just recently watched it again this November. Now, Giga's Shadow, now that is a pretty brilliant episode. I guess it's not exactly as interesting as... it's not quite as fun to watch as Eating Pattern, but Giga's Shadow is interesting in its own right. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not a huge fan of the episode's very dark sort of whole plot involving the divine shadow and all that mystical sort of dark, surreal kind of stuff that goes on in that episode. But the reason I love Giga's Shadow is because I absolutely love Ava Habermann as Zev Bellringer in this particular episode. Ava Habermann kind of steals this episode in a good way in a lot of scenes. I mainly love, my favorite scenes in the episode are when Zev is threatening Stanley's life twice. First, she tries to attack him naked in the shower. Well, he's naked in the shower. Like she makes these animal noises like a pantheress hissing and growling at him and stuff. She's threatening his life because, of course, he refuses to go through, take the LEXX through that cluster vortex to outsource more proto-blood for Kai to keep him alive. And she's pissed with him about that. And I also love the scene much later when she tries to attack him again, but this time she starts crying and she mentions, "I'm making eye water again." It's kind of an interesting scene. And speaking of crying, probably my absolute favorite scene in the whole episode is when I don't want to spoil too much of the plot again, but basically she and Kai go out on this mission and they're in this misty sort of area, and Kai more or less drops dead. He's technically dead, technically alive. Again, I don't want to spoil too much of that, excuse me, for you guys, but basically she naturally does what any girl would do and freaks out over Kai possibly being dead. She starts crying on him. She starts yelling at the void space. It kind of reminds me an awful lot of two very similar scenes. Kind of reminds me a little of Gillian Anderson in the closing scene of the season 8 episode of The X-Files called "This Is Not Happening," where Scully starts freaking out. And also kind of reminds me a little of Sarah Hyland in the Bonnie and Clyde miniseries, where she plays Clyde's sister-in-law, Blanche, and she freaks out because Buck got gunned down in the forest and is almost dead. It's some really dramatic stuff. Pretty much any time a woman is crying in distress over those kinds of dramatic moments where somebody's about to die or they think they're dead, it's kind of worth watching, in my opinion. But not just Zev Bellringer. I also love Brian Downey as Stanley Twiddle. Also gets a lot of funny scenes in Giga's Shadow. Like, not just the shower scene, but also when he's forcing all those sentient brain motors on the LEXX starship to start singing this goofy song of worship to him, and he starts dancing around, comes very close to twerking. It's a funny scene. I love it. So yeah, Eating Pattern and Giga's Shadow are my two absolute favorites of the 4 LEXX features. And I highly recommend you guys watch them if you're interested in LEXX. That's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Now, if you don't mind, I got to refuel myself. Where's that proto blood?